Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله أحمده واستعينه واستهديه واستغفره وأؤمن به جل وعلا ولا أكفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله والله كره المشركون. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His messenger of Allah. Huwa Allahu la ilaha illa huwa alimul ghaibi wa shahadati huwa ar-rahmanur rahim. Huwa Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-malikul qudus salamul mu'minu al-muhaiminu al-azizul jabbar al-muttakabir. Subhanallahi amma yushrikun. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kuntum khayra umatin ukrijat lil-nasi tamaruna bil-ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You're the best peoples raised for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear believers, it's really an honor and a privilege to be here today. I know probably the last couple of weeks y'all been kind of questioning, well, what is going on around here? Okay. Some of it is what I wanted to mention is feigning incapacity. You know, y'all have all read Lao Tzu's, strategies of war and what have you. What do they call it?
Art of war.
Yeah, the art of war. Same thing as strategy. And one of the, not even written in it, but is the idea, the concept of feigning incapacity. Some animals use it to trap their prey, and that means you pretend to be incapacitated. We've done that recently. And in that strategy of feigning incapacity, all types of wolves and monsters, some of them we talked about, was that last night we had to meet, come out of the woodwork. Oh, that's the friend of the fat black man. They all up to something. Da 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 da. Well, may I clear up something, dear believers, for us? Just in case you may not realize it, if we don't straighten out our lives and help straighten out the world, it don't look too good for the world. Yeah, it don't look too good for the world. It looks actually bleak, isn't that right? You look around at the world today, the world looks mad and the world looks pitiful. And the biggest troublemaker in the world today is the one who we call the United States of America. It is causing trouble. It is murdering our people in Palestine through the Zionists, of course. Well, the Zionists doing it for them, through them. They all work together. Don't worry about it. And we're kind of tired of that. And straight up warfare is one thing, but we have to study the art of war. And whatever you think about us here, we have been reasonably successful. I mean, when we came here in '89, we'd been here before, but we developed the idea and the strategy. Would you click my phone on? We had developed the strategy or idea of community, that we would acquire property and we would live close together as Muslim community. And therefore, when we first got here, we bought the little place over on 8th Street and 5021 8th Street. Then after we was there a few years, we came over here. And the idea was to buy property all around here, and which we have. We bought property all around here, you know, and the idea was that we would live in a nice Muslim community, and we'd hear the adhan call, and we would go to prayer and what have you. So if you think about it, if you look around here, we own that property on the hill, a big lot property down there, over there, and we still own our property on 8th Street. So the idea was to build or establish a community where Muslims could live close together, and we would hear the adhan and we would come out, we would have our own community. And last week I started with the talk on dream deferred. In other words, that dream that we had, it had to be, or it was deferred, because we came out with a wonderful concept, a wonderful idea, loving all humanity and hating no one, and going on about our business, and we did pretty good at first. And when we started getting, the more established we got, the more subversion that we encountered. That is fitna trying to destroy us, trying to break us up, trying to tear us down. And we continued all that time up to today. Now, don't forget Oakland, which we'll bring in a minute. And that was a time when we had as many as 10 communities, functioning communities in the U.S. And the idea was to establish one community a year, or, you know, that was kind of the hope and the aspiration. Why I say dream deferred is because the world is moving so fast toward destruction, right? That we have to get busy, we do, and try to rescue the world from the situation it's in. And you said, boy, I tell you about the Imam. He sure don't worry about thinking big and spreading his wings far. You mean we can't establish a Muslim community here, right in D.C., a functioning community that goes on, which it does, and the government tries to shoot it down, does shoot it down, is involved against us, but we keep going anyway. Well, what we say to that, our answer to that is, we live in a world right now, some of our classes we talk about the Triple Entente, the Triple Alliance, and those alliances pre-World War I, when there were a group of allies, the British, the French on one side, and the Germans, and what have you, on the other side. Even Uthmaniyya, the Ottoman Empire, actually joined with the Germans on. And that's actually what got World War I started. When they assassinated Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, all the people jumped up and started fighting. And that started World War I. That's the first time they had ever had that. A world war. I forget the numbers. Some say 50 million, some say 100 million. And if they add in that flu that they had at that time, they call it the Spanish flu, but it didn't come from Spain. I don't want to be so historical, but we're living in a historical period now. And that started a dynamic death toll. Over 50 million people was just killed, in open warfare. You got to remember now, long-range artillery, the airplane, and this introduced the tank on the battlefield, and poison gas introduced to the battlefield, rapid-fire weapons. This first war where they had a few where they had, but machine guns and all that, all the stuff was ripping people apart. So much so that they called it World War I, the First World War. Then we had the Second World War. So they had the Axis and the Allies, and that go around. Allies, U.S., and all of its friends. In the Axis, Germany, Japan, and maybe Italy or something like that. This is brutal war number 2. And it ended with atomic bomb in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. And now we're going through a period. If we don't take life in our own hands, there's a crackpot on the loose, white man on the loose. This boy is absolutely crazy. And I'll tell you why I know he's crazy, not because of his history, but I've been testing him. Now, most of y'all here will be able to remember certain little things. Now, everybody thinks the Negro can't come up with nothing, but first, the strategic management under conditions of repression. Then there's a concept of when you got boss man, we call it white man on the line. Now, you can laugh all you want. Boss man on the line. That means, when you go fishing, you had them little bobs, and you could tell when they're getting nibbles because that little yellow, white, a little white and red bob goes up and down a little bit. So he's nibbling. So then you wait a while, then you kind of jack it a little. We say boss man on the line because we have mastered the technique of instigating boss man and making him do things that he didn't want to do. I'm going to give you an example of it. Maybe 2 weeks ago, we had a khutbah here. And we was talking about that the winter is coming. And what we said was, this war in Europe is going to change in a way because of winter warfare. Now, what we're going to do is, we said that right in the wintertime, middle of winter, early winter, don't make no difference, we're going to have our allies or anti-U.S., anti-NATO forces walking around carrying pictures of white women laying up on the beach in California or Florida. Do y'all remember that? Anybody remember that? Just to let me know I ain't going crazy. All right, so good. Plenty of y'all remember. And that's going to be right in the middle of the winter when white folks in Europe is freezing to death, right? And so, I want y'all to remember, you get your dates down. When we walk out of here to the house and sat down with a nice cup of relaxation, before the next morning, now we came out of here at our time, which is in the afternoon. Over in Europe, by then, it's night. And that Russian pipeline blew up. Y'all remember that? You've been reading? Okay, now. What that did was, that's a case of white man on the line. What are we saying? You're saying that man up there is crazy. Well, you just count your thing. When we walked out of here, them people went straight and blew up that pipeline. They didn't think about it. They didn't think about repercussions with allies. They didn't think about nothing. That means that they cut off, so they thought, the access of Europe to Russian oil, gas and oil by blowing up the pipeline, right? All right, let me warm you up a little bit more. Right after that, all kind of dumb stuff started happening here. Why? Because they didn't strategize on it. They just went and ran. That's why we call it white man on the boss man on the line. We're saying, you can believe it or not, we're affecting them and laughing about it. And the week before that, it was the monkeypox. Y'all remember that? You know, the whipped cream on the face and all the whipped cream on the hands and opening the door. Monkeypox. Y'all remember that, don't you? Because some of y'all are sitting there like, okay, you either remember or you don't remember. So anyway, I was telling you that the police Negroes ran away so fast, I was saying you'd have to catch them down there over by the river somewhere. They zipped out of here. Now, we don't have bombs, planes. We wouldn't even use them. We wouldn't want to use them. But Allah gave the Negro the ability to clown and maintain an attitude of clownery, buffoonery, and coonery over long periods of time without breaking anything. That's what we did with Boss Man. That's what we're going to talk about today. Since we did that, everything was fine. I was just walking around, cutting the grass with my sweat gear on. You should have seen me. It was like the old days, you know, the sweat gear, getting a good sweat and feeling real good and strong. And all of a sudden, everything started missing because there's access to, everything started missing and acting funny because we had touched a nerve on old Boss Man. He didn't have time to think. Now, you just think about it. Usually he got time to strategize. He got time to make up his mind. He got time to run it around the table. When we left here, that pipeline was getting ready. They went and blew it up probably a couple of hours later. Over there, it was early in the morning. Hey, but we claiming, now I hope y'all remember again, we claim for months, almost years here, that we're going to be claiming not only the title, but claiming all the gravy for a lot of stuff happening. Now y'all can believe it, or you don't have to believe it. But what happened was, and I'll finish up in the second part of the khutbah, boss man went over and destroyed the pipeline. And we always talk about manifestation of defects. After blowing up the pipeline, he's now going to charge all of his European friends big money, right? So they can't get it from Russia. And have anybody heard that they're trying to rob Germany of Mercedes-Benz and all of that? And anybody heard any of that news? Can you imagine? So I'm going to skip. If boss man do his friends like that, dear brothers and sisters, what do you think he got in line for you? May I ask again? If he cut his best friend's throat and tried to recolonize or colonize Europe, what do you think he's got in mind for you here today? أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Yeah. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khayril mursalin. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I am satisfied with Allah, His Lord, with Islam as our religion, and with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as the messenger of Allah. We had a little meeting here, I guess it was last night, and what we talked about was some of the things that we're designed to do. What we're going to do, we talked about a little bit about fainted incapacity. As soon as we came out the other day talking about this and talking to this, so people thought, okay, the Imam is slipping. So the vultures start coming out. Lautus called it fainted incapacity. Fainted incapacity. Remember the greatest ancient tactics on warfare: know your enemy, know yourself, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Sometime, in order to know your enemy very, very well, you have to draw him out. So fainted incapacity right around here meant, by the time last week khutbah and the time we was thinking about, passing away and floating off to the pearly gates, stuff like that. So they say the Imam is really thinking about death. Well, so should you. What does the hadith say? You should think about death every day, because that's where doesn't anybody remember these hadiths? You should think, it's not morbid, you should think about death, right? And an example is one of the people of Umar's time, radiallahu anhu, was passing away. And as he was laying there, you know, they used to have a place you would pass away. In America, they had them too, where people had a room where, in the old days, they called it the dying room. But they changed the name since it didn't sound too good to, guess what? Living room. Any of y'all got living rooms? That used to be a room. See, people didn't die just like that. Now they got so much juice pumped up in them, it take them a while, and they just, boop. But they call it a dying room, because the madeleines of life would travel along with you and catch up with you, and eventually you would just die. Your friends and your family would all come to see you and be around there with you as you're passing away. This was just a custom. It was not a custom only here in America, all over the world. And over here, they had a place called the dying room. Well, in rich people's house. And the poor people's house, every room was a dying room. Anyway, so here we are, As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun in America. We want to do right. We want to establish a community. We want to have a place that's free and open, and people can walk out of the doors and see Muslims and wave at Muslims. And this is a good concept. There's nothing wrong with it. When we say a dream deferred, it's because we had acquired all the property around here and ready to acquire more. Then we slowed down, like we had acquired property around there on A Street. Because the level of fitna and foolishness and buffoonery from the government was so ridiculous that they came up with one heavy gauge of fitna after another. And we're a small group of people. Technically, we can't defeat the government. Not that we would even want to defeat the government. In fact, we didn't say it in many of our khutbahs. We would like to help America stop its slide into destruction. We have said here that we believe that there's at least 10% of the people in the FBI who are good people. Well, you get a little whistleblower every now and then. I think the people think I'm making this up. But we have said for years that we thought there were good people in the system. They were just afraid to come out. So we wanted to develop an environment, right? So it would make it easier for them to view us not as terrorists, but as citizens who wanted to benefit from America and help the rest of the people benefit. In fact, when you look at the Muslims, the consciousness of the Muslims from Imam Warithuddin Muhammad's time have always been, you're talking about a flag-waving community. When he jumped out of the box in 1976 would remake the world in Philadelphia, that had to do with blight control, rebuilding America. And that's when it was first going into the decline. In the end of Vietnam era, that is the year after, or the year before, when the people was hanging on helicopters coming out of Vietnam. I guess y'all don't remember all of that stuff, but you might see it on some of your history. So Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, the son of Elijah Muhammad, was a very good man. And he was different from, well, I ain't going to mention any names. I don't want no problem with nobody, right now. Peace and love time. All right. But I know us, I didn't even like that program. I did. What? Waving a flag? You know how many people have died being trampled by that flag? But I went along with it because I was a part of the community. We went through that period, and every attempt to try to help America was treated as something untoward. Now, the last time I talked with the FBI, technically the last time was when they came by here. They went by another brother's place first, But if you think the FBI don't know how to come straight here, hey, you're missing the point. But anyway, so that was that time when they was here. We had a talk and everything, and I was trying to relate to them some historical realities. And so I was talking about America going into a decline, a degeneration. And they was almost ha. So I looked at them and I said, haven't y'all ever read a history book? You know, which the FBI, you know, especially at that time, they're getting a little funny acting now. But at that time, they felt very powerful. You know, when you have all that authority, it blows you up, and you think you're running everything. They don't think like that now. They're confused, and they're going crazy. Well, I would even say they have gone crazy. But in the midst of all of this, the reason we have changed a policy, and I'll talk about it in a minute, from death to America to rescue America, because of the United States of America has gone crazy. And they're running around picking on everybody. And they're panicking about they've lost their number one position in the world. So this is a period for panic for the United States of America. They don't know what to do. See, everybody else in the world, all the old systems, they went up, they went down. If you look at China and other places and some European, they've risen and fallen over and over again. The rise and fall of Rome. So the old ancient empires like Persia, Iran, Egypt, all of them, they was big at one time and then they came down. So they have a history of rise and fall. The United States of America, one of the youngest countries in the world, have no history. They have a history of rising, but they don't have a history of how do we cooperate with other people. We either have to dominate them, direct them, make them do what we want for our benefit, like they want to steal all of Germany from their best ally right now. Am I lying about this? You could hear it all day. So here's the point. We're human beings. We live here in the United States and we have some intellect. So if we know what's going on, I think it's our responsibility to try, not like Imam Muhammad said, remake the world, but just a modest goal of rescue the world. Now, if you think they ain't in a rush to destruction, okay. Last week, the little white lady, Miss Pelosi, run over there, right, to Taiwan, stirring up stuff, right? And the U.S. was, yeah, right on, brother, you know, and all that dumb stuff. And when Russia or the Soviet Union crumbled, that made it so that Russia had lost its empire. And so NATO gained supremacy over the Warsaw Pact. They moved closer and closer to Russia. Finally, they had to stop because of the war in Ukraine. And if you listen to the news, from this side, everything you hear is bad for Russia. I'm going to try to speed this up. Now, it's not the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. It's kind of Allied powers or NATO, but now look at the other side of NATO. Everybody the United States have pushed and developed a whole coordination of people, right, that they work together today. So you'll find the Soviet Union, the Russians, had just did some things in Syria, right? You find Iran that's moving along at rapid speeds. You find Hezbollah in Lebanon maintaining a presence, right, in that region. And you find the Zionists slaughtering Palestinians at will, shooting newspaper people in the head, and just brutality. So we're moving into a new transformational period, whether you like it or not. The only thing about it, and I'm going to try to be brief, you and I don't have no sway over nothing. Don't nobody come ask you, should we go to Ukraine? Or what do you want to do with the new money situation? You want to join? You want to help? You want to run away? What do you want to do, right? Don't nobody come ask you about nothing. So it's in the hands of strategic analysts motivated by intellect and history, like, believe it or not, China, and others like Iran, and crackpots like the United States, who've been on the throne all these years and they don't know it feels comfortable. Their throne is shaky. They don't know what to do. So when they feel shaky, the only out is war. They develop war, right? War. That's all they do. And it happens they want to start one in Taiwan. They want to start one over in Ukraine. So we're not experts on history. But one of our talks was on from Stalingrad to Oakland. And the thing that turned World War II around was at Stalingrad in Russia. Now, all of y'all hear about the longest day in Normandy, right? That's what you hear from over here. They have movies, day-long movies about the U.S. and what have you. But 26 million or more Russians was killed. And what changed World War II was when the Russians, those old dumb semi-Slavs, right, outsmarted the great German Wehrmacht, the great German panzer divisions, trapped them in Stalingrad, defeated them and captured over 100,000 troops and killed, Allah knows best the number. And they didn't finish up till they come running into Berlin. And they went all through Russia, which must be 8 or 12 times, something like that, time zones. All the way going toward Germany, they're going through Russia, where the Germans had slaughtered and raped the women. It was unbelievable. And 28 million, something like 28, 29, 27 different numbers, Russians was killed. Okay, we want to repeat that. Now, we don't want to repeat that. Therefore, we have to take charge of our life. We have to take charge of our life because those idiots are on the road. Right? I don't know if y'all can see it. They're on the war path now because the only place they make money, the U.S., is war. War, like Eisenhower called it, the military-industrial complex. The power that it has. And you and I, have to begin this process And we can do it. Now, you can laugh all you want, but I've been thinking like this and acting like this a long time. And through good old type of clownery and buffoonery, we've been able to confuse, befuddle, and mix up old boss man. But in the recent months, boss man got mad. Right after that, we made fun of him that we're going to have posters all over Europe with white women. Y'all may not remember, but I sure do. All over Europe. And guess what's getting ready to happen? The freeze is coming to Europe. You know, the Russian winter destroyed Napoleon and it destroyed the Germans. But all up there gets a little chilly, right? This is what I want to say. So mad that boss man the pipeline blew up without any concern and any thought. Because when you fighting a monster, you want to tease him and clown him. So he just get mad and start punching every which way. That's what boss man did. We claim a title for that. That's what he did. You look at your stopwatch. You click, zoom over. Then go sit down a minute and go look at your newspaper when that pipeline blew up over there. It blew up the pipeline so the Russians wouldn't be able to sell all their gas and oil to Europe and keep them warm. So the U.S. say if we blew up that pipeline now, the Germans won't be able to afford. Nobody would be. Can you imagine Europe won't be able to afford, right? They already demonstrated in the street. Gas, oil, and heating. And if we show pictures of white women on the beach in Florida and down over in California, and their teeth is chattering, I guess none of y'all have really spent a European, of course we have. When we was on the run, we spent a little time in Germany and Scandinavia, Denmark, Sweden, and all of that. Chile. Okay. Just like nobody thought the dumb Russians could out-strategize, right, the great German panzer divisions. The Russians did it. And they surrounded and they defeated them. Okay, we have stuff like that in our mind, not physical stuff, but psychological. Y'all may not remember Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. I'm going to close up in a minute, but look. What would we fight with? We don't have bombs, and we wouldn't use them if we had. Who's going to drop a bomb on the city and everybody, all the little kids going to die? It's ridiculous. Psychological warfare means the minds it'll be a mental, and like the other one, psycho-spiritual warfare. Boy, that boy used some funny terms. Well, what in the world is psycho-spiritual warfare, Imam Musa? Where'd you come up with that one? Look at here. When you fight your enemy, you use stuff they don't have, right? Or you got something they don't have, you use it. Psycho, mind. Right now, boss man, you don't do long-range thinking. Tell the truth. Other people are decades ahead. The United States only thinks to the next quarter. Does everybody notice that about America now? Therefore, if a politician come in with a 4-year term, he can't work to solve the highway or the transportation problem. Why? Because if he raised the money and do all the work and get everybody working, by the time they finish the project, right, they're not in office. And the other crackpot will take all the credit for it. He's been in office 2 months, right? Yeah, look at this pipeline, look at all the stuff we built, right? Therefore, it is absolutely signed in steel. They can't do long-range good. It has to be short beneficial good. Oh, we sold off our assets, so now we're going to give you a dividend, right? That's America. China and others are long-range planners and thinkers. We use that on Boss Man to make him mad and go and blow up the pipeline. Well, everybody think he did. Since that day, Boss Man been mad at us. Boss Man been mad all the time, don't get me wrong. But that's why I come here last week giving a khutbah, looking all up in the air and talking around. And that's because that's healthy. It's called feigning incapacity. Somebody mentioned it here that day, right? Imam Musa they didn't call it feigning incapacity. You can't tell whether he's playing or not. Feigning incapacity. If I'm here too long and you feel like, well, boy, it won't slow down, just Allahu Akbar, and, I don't want to be overbearing. I'm going to try to end in 10 or 15 minutes if I can. Feigning incapacity is when you pretend to be wounded or unable, and it draw the people in. Or those khutbahs the other day, one person I know, yeah, man, you've been talking about such and such. Why don't you let me get hold to the Masjid, and because them people over there, and they mentioned, you remember you always talk about the fat black man and what happened, you can imagine what I'm saying. Look, feigning incapacity draws people out. One brother said, well, I'll buy such and such, and then that way I can have authority there at the Masjid. See, I'll pay this, that, and other, and I pay this. So I just said, that sounds interesting. I said, no, we don't do that. No, we don't do that. Feigning incapacity draws out leeches and spiders and monsters. Now, other people may want to have an intelligence network that goes around, listens to everybody and all that. We don't do that. We do it the old Negro way. Boy, I tell you. Now, you may think because of your grandparents and all of that was in a type of servile environment that they wasn't on their job. I tell you, and then I'll wrap up this. When I was in the federal joint up at McNeil Island, kind of like Alcatraz, except it's nice and wooded and beautiful up there, and Puget Sound. But it is on the island, and it looked like Alcatraz. Well, we came from California, so we didn't talk with guards much. And we, this the guard, the stuff like, well, especially in the state joint. But anyway, I used to notice all those Southern Negroes, chain gangs and all that. When they was there, they could get and do anything they wanted by one simple component: how they treated the guard. See, the chain gang, this is still when they had them running around. The chain gang, boss man, this, boss man, that. That was what you... So the guards didn't know that. So they thought they were honoring... These guys worked in the Army for 20, 30 years, right? So the Negroes out there, when I'm on McNeil Island, from the South, this was normal. Boss man, Can I go in there and get a box of them raisins out of there? And maybe a little bit of a little bag of yeast over there. Well, old Negro, you go ahead. And on the way, take you some of these prunes and apricots, which you know, because what the brother's going to make raisin jack and pruno, and he either gonna have bread to soak it, and the yeast gonna rise to the top, and he gonna pour it in there, or when you mix the sugar, right, with all them raisins and apricots and all of that stuff, right, and you pop some bread in there that's been sitting in water, you're going to have a serious alcohol. Now, they just say, boss man, they wouldn't ask for a little half-pound box. Boss man, get a box of this 50-pound box of raisins. A little box of raisins in there, boss man. Because he just saying boss man. And I looked at them niggas, them brothers, and I say, they can get anything they want just by that old Southern, you know, because they was a federal prison, a lot of them from the South, and they all had it. It was big game. But we was all tough guys from California. Yeah, you white so-and-so, the devil, you know, and all that stuff. We didn't get nothing but going to the hole. The old Negroes had the yard, everybody on the yard be laid out drunk because they done sold them all that pruno and raisin jack. But anyway, we learned from that, dear brothers. We learned from that. And that's why we developed a program here called Boss Man on the Line. That means that we'll get Boss Man locked in a tractor beam. You got to get Star Trek on it now. That hold them in place, and they can only do and act like you want them to. Akula kali hala, astaghfirullah, li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I'm going to go right to the point. Next to, we'll say, tomorrow, no later than Sunday, we're going to have a staff meeting here. And what we're going to work out is we're going back to California and what have you. But we're going to California with a different mode than we had in our mind the other day. In California, they've stolen a lot of our property and did a lot of different things. And right now, with my sons cooperating with the government, because you could imagine how they treat them. I mean, I don't know if I had the picture here. I had a picture. I don't know if it's here. But it was my son. Did y'all see the picture of my son with 7 bullet holes in him? Y'all didn't see that? Okay. Well, I had it here. Wait just a second. This might be it. This is the poor boy right here. There he is. He laid up in the hospital. Of course, don't worry about his Islamic credentials and the Playboy, tattoo. That don't have nothing to do with nothing. But what has something to do with it is, does anybody remember the letter I showed y'all when I went to parole board, and the parole board was saying, now, when you get out, we want you to go get a job, and we don't want you to go back to that Muslim center, talking about the place we had opened. Does anybody remember that? Okay, it's dated in 81. So the police never wanted us to be involved in no Islam. And they got anything they could. And my sons was there listening because they said, they was telling me what, of course I knew I had already read it. They was telling me what the parole officer was saying. And what my oldest son said was, when my wife told him that this happened and that happened. Well, the parole officer said, that ain't enough. You got to boost it up a little bit. They didn't listen because they're young kids at that time. They're about 14, but they got sense at that time, and maybe 11 or something. So they heard. So they know. And when I came home, they would stay in the Masjid with me, and we'd have a good time. And that's why they wound up staying in prison for the rest of the period. And they showed their photo albums with all their friends, like if a youngster here, they were dead. They were only ones live. So if anybody remembers, I gave the khutbah that the government was trying to hurt me by taking my sons away, right? Anybody remember that? But they helped by putting my sons in the penitentiary, and they lived. Okay, I'm going to go to the final thing here. We're going to have a meeting because we're going back to California, but it's different than from last night or the night before. We're going to form a legal team. Imam Musa, legal mumbo jumbo type team. We'll finalize it when we have our meeting, and it's up to y'all. We could have it tomorrow or Sunday. I technically think Sunday might be better, but if anybody want to do it on Saturday. And here's what we're going to work out. We're going to form a whole legal thing, because this thing about boss man on the line, we've trapped the whole government in California into a situation where they've broken all laws to take our property, to do all the things that they want to do. And we're going to develop a national movement. A definite national movement. Now, don't forget that day before last, we was getting ready to go into kind of a cruisy retirement. Remember that? No. Now, I'm going to admit, I didn't think about this all from the beginning. You know who I give the credit to? To the one that a nigga breathing and walking around, to Allah. Hey, all these dua, and when Allah said, I'll help you from avenues you never even imagined. Don't it say that? That's what it say in the Quran. That's what we getting help for. We getting that help. But we're going to start or go into a national, or it'll have international repercussions. We don't care what they do now. They done stole this, they done stole that. They got people think that they ran us out of Oakland. And we dutifully, well, bye-bye, y'all. But now we're going back. We're going back with a team. That don't mean the team have to go back. We're going to go back with team effort, team support, and we're going to not only help ourselves get all of our property back, but we're going to whoop boss man's behind in front of everybody. Slap the urine out of him. I'm telling you, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, and it's going to be fun. That's what we're getting ready to do now. The more cooperation, the better. But this is a legal move in his own system where he's broken all of his own laws in front of everybody. And Khadija, bless her heart, called me yesterday, something. Yeah, you about ready to lose that property out there. Talking about the family house. And my sons stay there. They don't pay no taxes. They just got the water turned on the other week. They've been there years. They're nice guys, but drugs haven't affected where they cooperate with the police. You know, they just do. They're nice guys. They like me too. They ain't driving. But I saw when my son was in the hospital and the nurse was talking to him. And so the doctor, your methadone, what's your methadone? I remember. She says it 225 or 230, that's normal. And he said, no, 265, or something like that. And that means that he had been heavily involved. No, I want to close with, I don't blame them. Why? Because since they was little kids, the government had been messing with them. So it could have accelerated their drug use, whatever it is. We're going to whoop boss man's behind on this legally in his own court and sell wolf tickets all the time. That's what we're getting ready to do now. And so anybody want to come tomorrow? Yes. We'll start organizing for that, you know, because we're going to do it here, we're going to do it in California. I mean, this is a big movement. This is like a movement we're starting, not a one-on thing, that this is the movement. And we've been waiting, taking our time, waiting till Allah hook it up for us, what Allah want us to do at this time. And what could we do to bring some awareness to people, right? The things that they've done to our organization are so vile and criminal. All the news and all the everything, it's going to be front page. It's going to be dramatic and interesting to people. Well, how did you do this, Mr. Reams? That's what they're going to say. Well, we da-da-da-da-da. And they're going to have maybe assistant number 1 and 2. Well, what do y'all think about that? And they're going to prearrange the answers. That's what we're getting ready to do. And anybody want to help, we're going to have to raise funds to do it. We're going to have, like any big legal staff, it's going to be expensive, so we're going to be raising funds for it. We're going to be managing transportation and everything, and printing and writing. And what it is a takeoff of the Strategic Management Center. Right? Yeah, that's what it's going to be. We're going to have one here, we're going to have one in Oakland, and don't worry, well coordinated. We thank Allah for this because we couldn't figure out what are we going to do exactly right now to help the world. Well, the way you help the world is with awareness. You know, help make them aware. And all that foolishness and stuff was going on last week and the week before, it was real. Real. And I'm going to close with this. Since I've been staying over there in that house, I don't know what they've been blowing in there, but sometime they might send in some stuff with ecstasy in it, or something, you know, make you want to be friends with everybody. So one day I come out, I want to be friends with, I'm telling you, look, I don't care. I do care. I want you to believe it, but it don't make me no difference. I think one of the life-saving things is when I come out, I talk about this stuff, and I'm going to close with this. And then the next day, you scared. You get it and wrote something in there that got you scared. I mean, look around and what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's not real because you only fear Allah, but temporarily. Then the next day, you hear some old country white folk song. You got to walk that lonesome valley. You got to walk it by yourself. Ain't gonna be nobody with you. You have to walk it by yourself. Of course, you know, you're getting ready to die. The lonesome valley is the death road. I'm just telling you for real. So if you want to laugh, hell, laugh. I laugh. All this stuff be happening to me. I'm going to tell you, if I wasn't laughing, I'd be the craziest man in the universe. With the stuff boss man do with me all the time, if it wasn't love, if it wasn't, what's the other stuff? Love, optimism,
And kindness.
kindness, and humor. That's the 4 principles that we fight under. Love, humor, optimism, and there's one more around there somewhere. Right, I mean, you don't expect me to remember everything. After all, I'm 77, and if I'm 77, and the old president is 78, he can't remember nothing. So at least if I remember one thing, I'm rolling, right? I get the memory reward, the old Negro memory reward. That's what I get. Y'all could get to me on the way out. I'm telling you. If you got to use what Allah give you, brothers. You don't get so high tech you forget. Allah give you the ability to laugh under the most excruciating circumstances. That's what He gave you and I. Tell the truth. Those humiliating circumstances that even our vocabulary, they call us boys so long that all from the 50s on, when you talk to a black person, hey man, what's going on? Why, hey man? Why you think you call each other man all the time? Think about it. They always call us boy. Isn't that right? Just self-defense. Dear believers, I do remember basically where I am, and it's Khutbah somewhere along the way. So I thank all of y'all for putting up with the stuff we've been doing. And I know that it takes a lot to sit here and listen to this. Months and months, years and years, and I know it makes sense. I believe it makes more sense than sitting over there with them crackpots, let's call them right. They're crackpots. They're not bad people, but they don't make no sense. They want you to, while the white man is cutting our throat, they want you to concentrate on how long your pants is, how short your pants is. Isn't that right? Insanity. Insanity. And it's taken over the move all over America and a lot of parts of the world. Boko Haram killing people over there. Well, what day did I say that I was inviting everybody to come for the tomorrow? Sunday. Dear believers, my memory, don't worry about that. I don't need no help, but I'll just check it to make sure. So, Sunday. We want y'all to come out. We're going to organize this. This is the next big move. If you don't come, just turn on your TV. It'll be on that coming from California in a little while. And then it'll be here. The groundwork is already set. We didn't know how we was going to do this in the long run. And we had no idea as we was cruising along, right? And putting up with this and looking at that and just making fun of life and having a good time. But the Quran does say Allah will help you from avenues you never anticipated. Isn't that right? Doesn't it say that? Allah will help you from ways you never thought about it and never anticipated. Dear believers, in closing, get ready. We're fixing to spank old boss man all on his behind and upside the head, yes? And we're going to tell his Negro helpers that we know you didn't know no better, and now you can be a good nigga like you ought to have been all the time. Yes, that's what we're getting ready to say. This one, if you think I'm lying, just stand by your TV or by your radio. This is the move that was needed to help not only Islam in a certain way, to drag all the people in that are good, but it's to help that you can have a seat at the table in the management of your own affairs. Not only in the world, but locally and even Islam, right? When they wait, the Negroes don't run nothing. Not that we want to run to dictate, but people have to take care to learn about what the local ideas and beliefs are. I don't believe that there's anybody here in America now even thought like this. But before you start laughing or stop laughing, I might be the last of the, big time spenders. Where's all the gangsters and players from the 60s? Raise your hand, go find them. Where they all at? Where are all the revolutionaries from that era? Where they are? They're my friends, but they're all dead. They're all killed by the system. Something is going on. If we've been standing in America talking about Islamic Institute for Psychological Guerrilla Warfare, it's an anti-Zionist, anti-U.S. in America. Tell the truth, it's all that stuff. How can we do that and Allah not protecting us? Something is going on. Thank y'all very much. Akula Kali Hala. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and negligence. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is besides thee. Ameen. Alhamdulillah.